What type of process is most appropriate for the business? First, we have this process types na job shop. Yung ganitong klaseng process ay bagay sa mga businesses na gumagawa ng unique, high value at low volume products tulad ng mga custom-built furniture o specialty machine parts. They prioritize yung flexibility pero kailangan ng skilled labor o kaya medyo mahal ito. So, another example nito is yung diagnostic procedure or sa hospital kung saan it's a job na different from each patient. So, being in a hospital, in a surgery, or in dental office, that is classified as a job shop. Then, next naman is yung batch process. So, common ito sa industries na gumagawa ng goods in small batches tulad ng bakery na ang product nila is pastries o yung mga seasonal na product lines. May balance ang efficiency at customization dito sa batch process. The next process type is the repetitive process. Ideal ito para sa mga businesses na gumagawa ng same product on a large scale tulad ng car manufacturing. Murang gastos dahil standardized ang process pero limitado naman yung flexibility. And the next one is the continuous process. Karaniwang ginagamit naman ito sa industries tulad ng oil refining o electricity production kung saan tuloy-tuloy ang operations. Malaki ang initial investment pero bumababa ang cost per unit dahil sa economies of scale. And the last type of process is yung mga project-based. Para ito sa mga industries na may one-time large-scale outputs tulad ng building construction or ship designs. So, resource-intensive ito pero kailangan para sa mga unique at complex tasks. Different process types and comparison with each other. So, we have here job shop, batch, repetitive or assembly process, and then continuous. And these are their differences in terms of description, advantages, and disadvantages. Sa job shop, we have this description na it is about customized goods or services. Then sa batch, it is about semi-standard goods or services. Sa repetitive and assembly, standardized goods or services. And then sa continuous, highly standardized goods or services. And then sa advantages, dito sa job shop, you can handle a wide variety of work. Sa batch, it is flexible, easy to add or change products or services. Sa repetitive, low unit cost and high volume, and then this is efficient. And then sa continuous, this is very efficient and very high volume. Sa disadvantages ng job shop, it is low, high cost per unit, complex planning and scheduling. Sa batch naman, moderate cost per unit, moderate scheduling, at moderate din yung complexity nito. Sa repetitive, low flexibility, high cost of downtime, and then sa continuous, very rigid, lack of variety, costly to change, very high cost of downtime. So, imagine a business na highly customized yung ginagawa niya. So, yun yung job shop. So, for example, signages, highly customized or yung mga pinapangalan sa corporate name. So, yun. Ayun yung best example ng job shop. Sa batch, ang best example dito is yung mga catering. So, by batch yung order nila. Then, sa repetitive or assembly, you can think of this like a factory, madaling assemble, paulit-ulit na lang. Ganun din sa continuous. So, almost similar sila, pero ang pinagkaiba nito is yung ginagamit nila. Okay? Kung dito, meron pa siyang may flexibility pa siya na low, sa continuous wala na. Very rigid na to, and kumbaga, what is plotted, what is nasa blueprint, yun yung mismong gagawin. Product variety and customizations will your business offer? So, for example, dito sa job shop, di ba, as explained earlier dun sa description nito, this one is very customized and naka-tailor fit ito sa customers. So, for example, yung mga repair shop or yung emergency room. So, sa emergency room, syempre, depende sa case. Kaya nga high variety. Pero unbelievable kasi ito yung example niya dito. And then we have the repair shop na naka-tailor fit nga to kung ano nga yung magiging problem ng device mo. So, yan yung isa sa mga example ng job shop. Okay? So, meron silang high variety, low or very low volume yung kanyang output. Then, dito sa moderate variety, ang example nito is commercial bakery and then classroom lecture na, which is done by batch. So, ibig sabihin, meron siyang moderate volume and may moderate variety siya kasi kung by batch, halimbawa, yung croissant. So, isang batch ng croissant, tapos isang batch ng ube pandesal. So, meron siyang moderate variety and moderate volume. And then sa low variety naman and high volume, mataas yung volume na nakikreate niyang output. Halimbawa, assembly line or automatic car wash kung saan you only have like 2 minutes para matapos yung car wash mo. And then sa assembly line, dahil very strict yung measurement dito, saan in 1 hour, the entire operations must have assembled like 200 cell phones. So, high volume to. Pero low variety kasi isa lang yung ginagawa nila for some time. Like for Monday, puro ano lang siya, Samsung S24 Ultra. So, for example lang. And Tuesday iba naman. Depende. Okay? So, that's what it means. Low variety, isa lang yung kayang gawin at a time, and then high volume yung napoproduce. Sa very low variety and very high volume, ang best example nito is yung mga petroleum refining. So, meron na siyang nakaset talaga na process at hindi siya basta-basta pwedeng palitan ng ibang petroleum. Hindi siya pwedeng mag-mix. Kaya very low variety and very high volume yung napoproduce nito. Ganun din sa water treatment. Production volume. So, una dito, mababa ba yung ina-expect mong production volume? Usually kasi, yung mga startups or artisanal businesses na gumagawa ng handmade jewelries, ay karaniwan naman silang mababang volume. Ang focus nila ay craftsmanship at exclusivity ng produkto. Then we have the moderate. Sa mga moderate, para ito sa mga medium-scale businesses tulad ng mga bakeries or regional bakeries o specialty food producers. Kailangan nila ng efficient processes para ma-manage yung lumalaking demand ng hindi sobra ang production. Then, para naman sa may mga high volume, karaniwan ito sa mga large-scale industries tulad ng mga fast-moving consumer goods or FMCG kung tawagin, or sa mga automotive manufacturing na nakafocus sa mass production para ma-achieve ang economies of scale. Gaano ka-flexible dapat ang process para maka-adapt sa pagbabago ng product design or demand? Meron tayong tinatawag dito, high flexibility. Kailangan ito sa industries tulad ng fashion or tech, kung saan mabilis magbago ang trends or needs ng market. Then we have this moderate flexibility kung saan para ito sa mga industries na may seasonal fluctuations tulad ng holiday theme products such as Christmas decors or Valentine's chocolate. And then sa low flexibility naman, bagay ito sa mass production na may consistent demand tulad ng mga bottled beverages. Applications ng napiling process type. Halimbawa, ang pinili ninyo is yung assembly line or yung repetitive. So, this one, meron siyang high initial cost and low operational cost. Kasi gumagamit ito ng automation, and this automation requires na may malaki kang investment such as robotics or machines, pero bumababa ang gastos naman sa long term dahil mas efficient na yung operations. Kapag naman merong low initial cost and high operational cost, ibig sabihin may manual process. At mas mura ito sa simula pero mataas ang ongoing gastos sa labor. Kaya medyo mabigat ito sa long term. And then sa balance cost, ibig sabihin merong semi-automated processes na may tamang balance sa cost. Kaya ideal ito para sa moderate scale operations na hindi kailangan ng full automation. Na fully automated production line costing. So, meron tong high investment. Yan, kaya high cost siya. So, meron siya initial investment na $500,000 at ang kanya monthly maintenance cost is $5,000. Ito yung inclusion ng investment niya. And then, yung labor cost niya, it's $10,000 per month. Meron siyang dalawang machine operator. And then, yung monthly output niya, it's 50,000 bottles. So, nagagawa ito by having 2,000 bottles per second. And then, yung operational downtime niya, it's 5%. Ngayon, dito sa kanyang unit cost breakdown, naka-specify na yung 20 centavos per bottle, kasama na dito yung plastic pellets, labels, and cups. So, this is the direct materials or raw materials para sa kanyang, let's say, mineral water. Sa labor cost, it is 2 centavos. Okay? So, 2 centavos yung labor cost sa per bottle. So, kinuha niya to by dividing yung operator salaries divided by its monthly output. So, ang given, ang kanya operator salaries is 10,000 divided by its monthly output na 50,000. So, this is actually 0.2 centavos. Okay? So, this is actually 0.2 centavos. Ito yung charging para sa salary ng kanyang operator kada isang bote. And then, sa kanyang machine depreciation, it's 0.03 per bottle depreciated over 5 years. Okay? And then, yung kanya electricity, it's 0.05 centavos per bottle. So, in the end, ang kanyang total unit cost, it's 30 centavos per bottle. Pero magkano niya to binibenta? Of course, hindi yan 30 centavos lang. So, sabi niya, it's 30 centavos per bottle. So, this one must be 0.3 centavos and this one must be 5 centavos para maging 30 centavos siya. So, this is a sample computation ng manual production line. Kanina, we were able to get na yung total unit cost using the automation is only 30 centavos. So, this time, it is $1.20 per bottle. Ngayon, as you can see here, mababa yung kanyang initial investment. So, ito lang yung including what they invested. So, basic equipment, manual bottle molders, labeling machines, and assembly tables. And then, yung maintenance cost niya, it's only $1,000. But, mas mataas yung kanyang labor cost. They need 15 workers for molding, assembling, and packaging. And then, yung kanyang monthly output is lower sa automation, which is only 10,000 bottles. And then, nakakagawa lamang sila ng 1 bottle per minute. Meron siyang 10% na operation downtime. And then, sa material cost niya, it's the same per bottle. It's 20 centavos. Ito yung including the bottle. And then, sa labor cost, this one, per bottle siya. So, they divided the wages, tapos divide it by the monthly output. This time, ang lalabas dito, it's actually $3. So, we're not sure if gumamit ito ng predetermined overhead cost. Pero let's just assume na 30 centavos na lang yung ginawa nila. And then, sa maintenance, it's $0.01 per bottle, and electricity, it's 10 centavos per bottle. So, they were able to get the $1.20 na per bottle na total unit cost. So, again, hindi ito yung selling cost. Ito yung um, ginastos nila to create the product. So, sa manual production line, this time, this is higher compared dun sa automation. And lower yung kanyang monthly output. Again, meron tayong resulta ng automation, which is 0.13 yung kanyang total unit cost. And then sa manual naman, we have 1.20 na total unit cost. And dito sa semi-automated, we have semi-automated 0.70. So, in between, ito yung value. Ito yung almost okay naman. If you cannot afford a higher initial investment, you may opt to choose the semi-automated production line kasi it can give double the amount ng output compared dun sa manual na production line. So, you need to study which best suits your production line. Is it manual? Is it automated? Or is it semi-automated na production line? Then, get the costing. Okay? Get the cost and you can compare which one to invest. Which one yung pipiliin ninyo na setup para sa business ninyo. So, you can break the cost down like this one, or if mas marami pa kayong information, the better. This is the detailed comparison table kung saan we compared these three processes. So, the fully automated, the manual, and semi-automated. So, sa fully automated, mataas sa kanyang setup cost. Sa manual, mababa. And the semi-automated, it is in between. And then, yung monthly labor cost, mas mababa sa fully automated, mas mataas sa manual, and in between again, yung semi-automated. Ngayon, ito na yung strength and weaknesses. Highly efficient, yung fully automated, and then meron siyang low labor, and then kailangan din ng high initial investment. Sa manual naman, meron kang low setup cost, ideal lang siya for small scale, and then this is only labor intensive and low scalability. Mahirap siyang dagdagan pa. Like, pag mas maraming volume, mas tatagal kasi konti yung tao. Ganyan. Next is yung balance cost naman dito sa semi-automated. Meron siyang moderate flexibility. Meron siyang higher initial cost than manual setups. This is the break-even analysis ng bawat processes. So, as you can see here, ang selling price per bottle, it's $1.50. So, sa fully automated, 30 centavos yung kanyang total unit cost. Sa manual production, it is $1.20. And sa semi-automated naman, it's 70 centavos yung kanyang total unit cost. Then, from this total unit cost, deduct it dun sa selling price. The selling price is $1.50. And then, multiply this dun sa volume ng output. Gano'ng karami yung kaya ninyong i-produce. So, sa fully automated, it's 50,000. Sa manual production, it's 10. And then, sa semi-automated, it's 20,000. So, this is now the total gross profit nila. Okay? So, this is the gross profit without minding the other operational costs or other costs incurred, okay, such as selling and administrative costs. So this is the gross profit from the um, selling, okay, sales projection. And then you need to get the break-even analysis. How much is your initial investment? So dito sa fully automated, it's 500,000. Then yung gross profit niya is 60,000. You divide the initial investment cost dun sa kikitain sa sales projection na anticipating or yung usual na nangyayari. So, 60,000 yung kanyang usual gross profit per month. So, how many months para ma-earn niya itong 500,000? It's 8.33 months. Okay? Ganun din ang interpretation dito. So, sa manual production, dahil 3,000 lang yung kanyang gross profit at pababa ang kanyang manual production, hindi ibig sabihin na mas mabilis siya mag-earn. So, it will take him 16.67 months to earn back this $50,000 na kanyang investment. Then, dito naman sa semi-automated, 200,000 yung kanyang investment money, 16,000 ang kanyang projected sales. So, it will need 12.5 months to earn back this 200,000. Kung titignan ninyo, dito sa automated, mas mabilis niya ma-earn yung investment money niya na 500,000. So, with this, you need to compare, you need to do a break-even analysis kung kailan ninyo ulit ma-earn yung initial investment ninyo. Identify the number of months when are you going to earn it back. Yung fully automated, suitable ito for large-scale businesses with high capital. Break-even is achieved quickly due to high production output and low cost per unit. Sa manual production naman, bagay ito sa mga startups na may limited budget, but not ideal for scaling dahil meron itong high labor cost. Okay? Hindi mo siya basta-basta may scale up. Then, sa semi-automated, it is a middle ground solution for medium-scale businesses that balances initial investment and operational cost. Paano maapektuhan ng process selection ang lead time at customer satisfaction? So, we have here the long lead times with high customization. Yung mga custom orders ay mas matagal gawin pero mabibigyan ng mataas na customer satisfaction naman yung negosyo nyo. Kapag naman moderate lead times with standardized options, enough lang yung balance ng bilis at choices tulad ng batch production, for example, pastries or yung mga seasonal items. And then, kapag naman short lead times with minimal customization, mabilis ang delivery para sa mass markets at nagbibigay ito ng convenience sa customers. For example nito, yung mga Amazon products that you can buy easily. And any e-commerce shop na mabilis mag-deliver. Yun yung short lead times with minimal customization. Anong layout ang pinakabagay sa napiling process? So, meron tayong 4 na layout. Una dito is yung product layout. Bagay ito para sa mga high volume na repetitive process tulad ng bottling plant kung saan dumadaan yung mga items sa isang linya kaya mas mabilis at cost efficient ito. Next one is the process layout. Ideal ito para sa mga custom or flexible processes tulad ng mga hospital na nakagroup ito sa mga department by functions. For example, yung radiology department, surgery department, etc. Then, meron din tayong fixed position layout kung saan ginagamit ito kapag sobrang laki na ng produkto at hindi na madaling ilipat. Tulad ng paggawa ng mga ships, yung mga workers and tools ang lumilipat papunta sa produkto. And lastly, we have this hybrid layout kung saan Pinagsasama ang iba't ibang layouts para sa efficiency tulad ng grocery stores na may process layouts, sa bakeries at product layouts sa aisles naman nila. Example ng product layouts kung saan meron siyang production line. A flow line for production or service. Meron tayong station 1, 2, 3, at 4. At yung raw materials, kapag na-develop sa station 1, ipapasa sa station 2, then pasa sa station 3, and then so on. Ito yung tinatawag na product layouts kung saan nakalinya yung mga proseso. So, meron ditong materials, merong tao, materials, and people na involved dun sa pagbabago or dun sa production process. A production layout kung saan ang tawag naman sa ganitong setup, it is a cafeteria line. So, sa bawat station, nadadagdagan yung laman nung tray ninyo. So, ganun lang din yung logic nito, ganun yung what it means by having a product layout. So, bawat station may changes na nangyayari. Ito yung product layout na sequential na ginagamit sa repetitive and continuous process. From being processed from one station and then transferred to another hanggang sa maging final product siya. So this is another layout design. This is a U-shaped production line. So hindi man siya linear. So gumagalaw man yung mga tao, but meron siyang in and out pa din. So dumadaan siya sa bawat station. Ngayon, bakit siya U-shape? Kasi halimbawa, meron kayong constraint sa location. Like hindi rectangular yung location or yung store or factory. You can do a U-shape para mas efficient siya sa space. This is an example ng process layout, the functional process layout, na ginagamit siya for job shop and batch processes, and also sa mga hospitals, kung saan you don't necessarily need pagdaanan bawat isang workstation. You only need to have the job done by a certain process. Like, kung gusto mo lang magpatingin sa radiology, hindi mo na kailangan pumunta sa surgery department. So, radiology ka lang. Ganun din yung design nito para dun sa mga testing center. So, halimbawa, high precision na diagnostic center. So, may mga certain department kung saan dito yung consultation, dito yung inspection, so on. So, ito yung ibig sabihin ng process layout. So, naka-layout siya, nakalatag siya kung saan yung bawat process, you can ignore the other kasi itong process lang na ito yung kailangan mo. So, yan yung ibig sabihin nitong process layout na ginagamit for job shop and batch process. How will the layout ensure an efficient flow of materials, people, and information? So, may tatlong klase tayo dito ng layout. So, una dito is yung centralized workflow kung saan yung assembly lines, katulad ng Tesla, it minimize material movement and standardized processes. So, this one naman is an example ng centralized database. So, it minimize movement din, and then it standardize the process kung saan yung bawat department, they need to deposit their files sa isang central repository, which is the centralized database. Ganyan yung sabihin ng centralized workflow. So, they just need an approval para magkaroon sila ng access sa files ng purchasing and other department. Ganyan. So, ganyan yung ibig sabihin ng centralized workflow. Meron kang isang patutunguhan and lahat is nandun manggagaling yung decision. So, it minimizes movement. Like, hindi mo na kailangan pumunta pa sa sarili mong repository and then pupunta sa yung sales tapos hihingin siya ng access sa repository mo. So, ang daming movements. You can just have a centralized database or centralized location. Let's say this is a centralized location where they have all access sa certain process or certain information. Then we have the decentralized workflow. So these are clusters workstations for flexibility, common sa hospitals or laboratory. So let's say na dito sa certain location na to, same floor, nandito yung radiology department. And then, kailangan ng radiology and surgery department ng mga nurse. So, meron siyang nurse station dito. So, decentralized workflow. And then, dito naman, meron ding another nurse station. Let's say, this one is for the fertility department or anything na walang kinalaman sa dalawang to. So, they have their own nurse station here. And then, this one then, may sarili siyang nurse station. So, ganyan yung decentralized. So, hindi lahat umaasa sa isang station ng nurses. And then, lastly, we have this cross-functional layout. It promotes collaborations, office settings, or innovation hubs where departments work closely. So, let's just use this as an example kung saan the maintenance department, let's say, then the safety department, they can work together in a same space. Like, this is a same space for them, and then another space for capital planning, and the other department. So, this is just some visualization. This is for visualization purposes only. Just to imagine how layout can give an efficient flow sa trabaho. Anong mga factors ang nakaka-influence sa layout design? So, we have here 4 factors that we can discuss. Una is yung space availability, kung saan sa mga small urban factories, ino-optimize ang vertical space para sa production at storage. Then, sa customer interaction, yung mga retail stores naman is nagde-design sila ng layout para i-maximize yung shelf visibility at convenience sa customers. Then, yung safety and compliance, yung mga factories na nag-handle ng chemicals ay dapat sinisigurado nila na yung layouts ay sumusunod sa safety regulations. And lastly is yung workflow optimization, katulad ng mga fast food chains like McDonald's kung saan dinidesign ng kitchen para mabawasan ang movement ng mga staff. How scalable is the proposed layout? So, meron tayong tatlong klase ng scalability. Una dito is yung highly scalable. Ibig sabihin nito, yung mga modular layouts is madaling i-expand at magdagdag ng bagong equipment or production lines na hindi na i-istorbo yung existing operations. So, a good example here is yung Amazon warehouse kung saan meron silang modular shelving system at robotics na pwedeng i-reconfigure or expand kapag tumaas ang order volume. So, yung mga highly scalable layouts is mahalaga para sa business sa businesses ng mga dynamic industries tulad ng e-commerce, tech, or automotive, kung saan mabilis magbago ang market demand. Sa moderately scalable naman, ito yung mga layouts na nangangailangan ng counting adjustments or rearrangement para sa expansion. So, they might be manageable, pwede nang magkaroon ng temporary downtime or dagdag na gastos. Ang isa sa mga example nito is yung mga medium-sized bakeries na kapag nagdadagdag ng bagong ovens o yung mga packing station, kailangan i-rearrange ang ibang equipment pero hindi naman major overhaul. Also, sa mga small manufacturing plants kung saan, for example, may isang clothing manufacturer na magdadagdag ng sewing machines or workstations, kinakailangan nila ng minor layout changes. Yung mga ganitong klaseng scalability tulad ng moderately scalable is bagay sa mga businesses na medyo steady pero incremental ang growth. Flexible ito pero hindi kasing mahal ng modular layout. Then lastly, we have this limited scalability kung saan fixed layout ito at mahirap at mahal i-modify, kadalasan sa nature ng produkto or sa space may constraint. So halimbawa nito, yung mga older manufacturing facilities kung saan itong mga lumang factories is may mga permanente na naka-install na equipment kaya malaki ang downtime at gastos kapag kailangan baguhin. Also, yung mga pharmaceutical plants dahil sa strict regulations at environmental requirements, mahirap at mahal ang layout changes. Yung limited scalability is karaniwan na sa mga industries na merong stable production volume o may focus sa cost efficiency tulad ng mga cement manufacturing or steel production. Paano naapektuhan ng customer interaction yung layout nyo? So, may tatlong klaseng interaction. Merong high interaction, moderate interaction, at low interaction. If your business needs high interaction para mas marami kayong sales, then kailangan ninyo ng accessibility at aesthetics katulad ng mga cafes kung saan mahalaga yung ambience sa kanila kasi syempre para magstay yung customers at also kailangan yung mga services nila madaling i-access ng customers. Then if your business only requires moderate interaction, then nagpo-focus kayo sa dual functionality ng service at efficiency. So, for example nito is yung mga banks, kailangan parehas na convenient sa customer at efficient yung operations nila. Another example is yung mga showrooms, katulad ng mga furniture stores, kailangan may balance sa product display at sa customer movement. So, moderate interaction yung dinedemand nito. Kapag naman low interaction, ibig sabihin nito, mas inuuna ninyo yung operations kesa sa customer-facing design kasi hindi naman siguro required talaga yung customer dito. Katulad ng mga warehouses kung saan they prioritize efficiency and inventory management over aesthetic kasi hindi naman nila ina-expect talaga na may customer na darating sa warehouse nila. But if your business is about storage and warehouse, then of course, kailangan meron kang magandang layout, of course, kung saan hindi nila require na magkaroon ng interaction yung mga customers. So, may mga ganyang storage unit for rent. Paano mababawasan yung transportation cost sa loob ng facility? So, hindi siya talaga yung transportation cost na may pera. Yung ano yung movement. Kung gaano kadaming movement ba yung transferring from process A to process B, gaano sila kalayo. Yun yung queuing time, waiting time, ganyan. So, paano mababawasan ito? So, we have three solutions. Una dito is yung placing in interdependent workstation together. Kasi kung magkakatabi yung mga workstations na may connection sa process, mababawasan yung paggalaw ng materials o produkto. Nakakatipid ito sa oras, effort, at handling cost. So, for example, sa isang furniture factory na lang, kung magkakatabi ang cutting, sanding, at assembly station, hindi na kailangan mag-ikot ng mga workers para mailipat yung mga materials. Sa another example is yung bakery, kung katabi ng dough preparation area ang oven, mas mabilis ang proseso dahil hindi na kailangan magdala ng trays sa malayo. Then, the other solution is using automation for material movement. So, pwede kayong gumamit ng conveyor belts, automated guided vehicles, or AGV, o yung mga robotic system na nagpapabilis ng galaw ng materials at nagpapababa ng manual labor. So, for example, yung Amazon, gumagamit sila ng robots para ilipat yung mga shelves papunta sa workers. So, kaya nababawasan yung paglalakad ng tao at tumataas yung productivity. And then, sa car manufacturing, ang conveyor belt naman yung nagdadala ng parts mula sa isang station papunta sa next station. Then, the third solution is, and the last one is about reducing unnecessary storage locations. So, kapag consolidated yung storage area sa isang central location, is mas napapadali yung material flow at nababawasan ang transport time mula sa iba't ibang storage points. Mas simple ang sistema at hindi magastos. Anong mga tools ang pwedeng gamitin para ma-design at ma-optimize ang layout? So una, you can use the flow diagrams and process charts because itong mga tools na to is nagpapakita ng workflows, galaw ng materials, at relasyon ng bawat workstation. Nakakatulong din ito para matukoy yung mga inefficiency, bottlenecks, at areas na pwedeng i-improve. Next is yung mga simulation software. Dahil itong mga simulation tools ay nagbibigay daan sa businesses na gumawa ng virtual models ng layout at itest at ang iba't ibang scenarios nang hindi binabago ang physical facility. So nakakatulong ito makita ang epekto ng layout changes sa efficiency, gastos, at productivity. And the last one is the physical modeling, kung saan gumagawa ng small-scale models o pag-test ng mga layout changes sa real-world conditions. So, hands-on ang approach na ito, bagay sa pag-visualize ng spatial arrangements at feasibility testing. Anong technologies ang pwedeng gamitin para mapataas ang efficiency sa production process? You can use robotics. Yung robotics kasi gumagamit ito ng mga automated machine para gawin yung mga repetitive, precise at labor-intensive na task. Pinapabilis din ito yung production at binabawasan ang human error at nakakatipid din sa operational cost. Sa Internet of Things na devices, ito naman is interconnected na mga devices na nagko-collect at nagtatransmit ng data real-time. Sa production, ang IoT ay nakakatulong sa pag-monitor ng equipment, inventory levels, at workflow efficiency, kaya mas inform ang decision making. Then, the last one is the ERP system or yung Enterprise Resource Planning System, which is a centralized software na nag-integrate at nagmamanage ng core business processes tulad ng production, procurement, inventory at sales. Binibigyan nito ang negosyo ng holistic view ng operations para ma-streamline ang workflows at mapabuti ang decision making. You also need to compute for the cycle time. So this is an example ng assembly line na time. So cycle time. So for example, dito sa process A, it only took them 0.1 minute para ma-process, and then this one is another time in transfer, and then dito sa process B, 0.7 minute para mabuo yung parts. So, halimbawa, this is a cellphone assembly line. So, let's say this is a motherboard. Dito, ilalagay na yung chip 1. Dito, ilalagay yung speaker, so on. So, ganyan yung itsura niyan. Ngayon, this is the time spent na ginawa nila para dun sa each process. You need to identify it too sa feasibility ninyo, yung how many time spent sa bawat isang process. So, this is the formula para sa output rate kung saan ito yung you divide the operating time per day sa cycle time. Ito yung cycle time ng each cycle. This is cycle time A, cycle time B, at C. So for example, this is for cycle time A. Let's say it took them 1 minute to assemble or to ilatag yung parts, maikabit sa isang parts. How many units per day yung kaya niyang gawin dito sa process A? So, you divide the total number of minutes dun sa process time. So, in the end, you will get how many units per day yung kaya ninyong mabuo. In terms lang to ng process A. So, ulit-ulitin nyo to. For example, this one naman is for process B. Okay? So, how many items ang na-process for process B per day? So, yan yung cycle time. Another term dito is the throughput cycle. So, throughput time ito. So, from beginning to end. So, let's just use the cycle time for each process that you have sa inyong business. This is the typical supply chain kung saan, let's say, you have 3 suppliers and then, itong mga suppliers na to, ano yung mga materials na binili mo, and then, meron kang storage unit, and then, for manufacturing, and then, storage from that manufacturing, and then, distributor. This one is the finished goods, and then, distributor, retailer, and customer. So, this is the basic supply chain management, and we need to do this too. This one naman is for the service type of company, typical service supply chain. So you have supplier, sa mo ilalagay yung mga materials that you bought, and then performance ng service, and then customer. Ano ang mga pangunahing materials o products na kailangan? At sino ang mga potential suppliers? So, kailangan ilista ninyo yung mga direct materials ninyo. And then, sino naman yung mga potential suppliers? So, do you have local suppliers? Sila yung mga mas mabilis na magbigay ng delivery at mas madali ang communication with them. Ideal ito para sa mga perishable goods tulad ng fresh produce. And do you have a international suppliers kung saan mas mura yung gastos pero mas matagal ang shipping time? Bagay naman ito sa mga non-perishable items tulad ng mga electronics or toys. Then, do you have multiple suppliers kung saan diversify ang sourcing ninyo para mabawasan ang dependency at risk, lalo na kapag may mga global supply chain disruptions. Anong criteria ang gagamitin para ma-evaluate ang supplier reliability? So, una dito is yung price competitiveness. So, pumili ng suppliers na nag-aalok ng competitive prices na hindi sinasakripisyo ang quality. Halimbawa, ang isang retail company ay maaaring mag-prioritize ng suppliers na nagbibigay ng bulk discounts o cost-efficient options para mapanatili ang kita habang natutugunan ang demand ng customers nila. Then, check their lead time efficiency. Siguraduhin kayang mag-deliver ng suppliers on time. Mahalaga ito sa mga businesses na may tight schedules tulad ng mga fast food chains o yung gumagamit ng mga just-in-time manufacturing system. Halimbawa, ang isang restaurant chain na umaasa sa daily deliveries ng fresh produce ay dapat makipagtrabaho sa suppliers na garantisado ang on-time delivery para maiwasan ang service disruptions. Then, the third one is about the historical performance ng kanilang on-time delivery at quality consistency. You need to check yung kanilang track record ng suppliers na napili ninyo sa pag-deliver ng products on time at consistent sila sa pagtugon sa quality standards. Halimbawa, ang isang clothing manufacturer ay maaaring mag-assess ng fabric supplier upang matiyak na pasado ang materyales sa color fastness at durability requirements. Then, the last one is about supplier certifications. For example, is yung ISO standards. Ang certifications tulad ng ISO 9001 ay nagpapakita ng commitment ng supplier sa quality at consistency ng processes. Halimbawa, pharmaceutical companies ay madalas humihiling ng good manufacturing practices mula sa mga suppliers upang matugunan ang regulatory standards. Paano nakakatulong ang strategic sourcing para mabawasan ang gastos at risk? So we have three solutions here. Una is yung long-term contracts kung saan nagbibigay ito ng stable na pricing at priority access, lalo na para sa mga critical na raw materials tulad ng semiconductors sa electronic industry. Then we have supplier diversification kung saan binabawasan ang risk ng total supply chain collapse sa panahon na may mga natural disasters or biglaang disruptions. And then the third one and last is about collaborative partnership kung saan nagbibigay ng oportunidad ito para sa co-development ng new materials o cost-sharing agreements para sa innovation. Ano ang mga potential alternative sourcing options kung may supplier disruptions? So, we have here yung secondary suppliers. So, kailangan mag-maintain ng relationship sa backup suppliers na pwede mag-step in kung kailangan. And then, we need to have the on-demand suppliers kung saan useful ito para sa high demand periods, flexible sila pero mas mataas ang presyo nila. Then, the third one is the vertical integration kung saan you need to take control yung production para mabawasan ang dependency tulad ng ginawa ng Tesla sa in-house battery manufacturing nito. So, kailangan yung gumawa ng own materials ninyo. So, for example, sa tatlong ito, is yung isang clothing retailer na nakakaranas ng delays mula sa overseas suppliers at ang pagkakaroon ng domestic secondary suppliers is makakatulong para magpatuloy yung operations nila kahit na mas mataas yung gastos. Ano ang long-term impacts ng supplier relationships sa operational efficiency? So, you can gain collaborative partnerships kung saan pinapataas ang operational reliability at innovation sa pamamagitan ng joint problem solving. And then, you can gain transactional relationships kung saan nakakababa ng gastos pero pwede magdulot ng frequent supplier switching at inefficiency. And then, the third one is the hybrid model kung saan pinagsasama ang cost-saving suppliers sa strategic partnership para sa critical materials. So, overall example, let's say, may yung company tulad ng Apple ay heavily nag-invest sa supplier partnership para makasecure ng priority access sa key components tulad ng microchips na nakakatulong para sa smooth production nila. Anong metrics ang gagamitin para i-monitor ang supply chain performance? So, you can use the lead time or the order fulfillment speed kung saan sinusukat ng lead time ang kabuuang oras sa pag-place ng order hanggang sa pag-deliver nito sa customer. Kasama dito ang processing, production, at shipping time. The second one is the cost per unit shipped. So, dito, kinakalculate nito ang average na gastos para sa pag-ship ng isang unit ng produkto. Kasama rito ang transportation, labor, at storage cost. Then, the third one is about the customer satisfaction rate, kung saan sinusubaybayan nito kung gaano kadalas na i-deliver ng tama ang orders, tamang items, tamang quantity, at kung on time ba ang delivery. Ang mataas na satisfaction rate ay nagpapakita ng maayos na supply chain. Paano ma-optimize ng supply chain planning ang resource allocation para matugunan ang customer demand? So you can use the demand forecasting, you can use AI tools para mapredict ang seasonal trends at maiwasan ang overproduction. Then, you can also use yung mga inventory optimization tools katulad ng mga just-in-time system or JIT na nagpapababa ng holding cost at tinitiyak ang tamang oras ng replenishment. And then, you can also use this scenario analysis para mapaghandaan ang demand surges tuwing holidays or crisis. So, for example, yung Starbucks ay gumagamit ng demand forecasting para ma-manage ang kanilang coffee bean inventory. Tinitiyak na laging available ang stocks nang hindi nag-overstock at maaaring magdulot ito ng waste. So this is an example ng demand forecasting based sa historical data. Then you should also be familiar how to forecast. You can use regression or other forecasting tools. So they have this historical data and they forecast for the current year. So the forecast for June 2024 predicts a demand of 50,000 units, requiring the company to plan production and inventory accordingly. So ito yung peak season nila. So na-forecast nila na every June tumataas significantly yung demand dun sa product nila. So you can prepare for it ahead of time. Now, this is an example ng just-in-time system kung saan merong schedule talaga ng delivery. So, for example, for plastic bottles, ang delivery nito is every Monday. So, before Monday or halimbawa ang cut-off is Friday, they would know how many items na yung kailangan nilang i-request for delivery by Monday. Ganun din sa other remaining materials nila. So, before the delivery date, which is Monday and Friday, and then meron din silang cut-off. By that cut-off, kailangan meron na silang quantity, how many materials yung kailangan nila i-order prior dun sa delivery date or the schedule na delivery date. So, with this, weekly deliveries reduce warehouse storage costs and it aligns with the production schedule, ensuring no stockouts or excess inventory. So, this is an example naman ng planning for demand fluctuations. So, meron na silang identify na every summer tumataas ang demand, baseline lang ito kapag normal weather, at bumababa ang demand kapag rainy or rainy summer. Ganyan. So, na-identify na nila yung seasonality ng demand din sa kanilang bottled water. So, they were able to create adjustments sa raw materials like this one. Increase weekly deliveries by 10% during hot summer, at kapag rainy summer naman, decrease weekly delivery. So in summary, this is the situation or the scenario analysis that they created. Kapag meron silang high demand scenarios or situations, ito yung mga baseline nila, ito yung high demand, at ito yung low demand scenario. These are the quantity of items that they need to maintain sa inventory nila. Ano ang mga operational risk at paano ito mababawasan? So, you can use the safety stock kung saan you need to prepare for buffering inventory para sa critical products tulad ng mga gamot. Then, for insurance, mapoprotektahan kayo laban sa losses mula sa damage or stolen shipments. And sa real-time tracking, you can monitor yung mga goods habang nasa transit para matukoy agad at masolusyonan yung mga delays. So, for example, sa panahon ng bagyo, yung isang food delivery company ay maaaring gumamit ng real-time GPS tracking para i-reroute yung mga drivers at maiwasan ang pagkasira ng perishable items. Aling order fulfillment approach ang pinakaangkop sa business model? So, we have three here. Una dito is yung engineer to order. So, dito, dinedesign at ginagawa ang produkto base sa specific na requirements ng customer. Karaniwang ginagamit ito para sa mga highly customized at complex na produkto. Angkop ito sa mga businesses na kailangan ang involvement ng customer sa design phase at may flexible na delivery timelines. Then, the second one is the make to order. Yung mga produkto ay ginagawa lang kapag may order mula sa customer. Binabawasan nito ang inventory cost pero kailangan ang efficient production system para matugunan yung demand. So, for example nito is yung mga products katulad ng furniture. Bagay ito sa businesses na binibigyang halaga ang customization ng customer kahit medyo matagal ang delivery. And then, the last one is the assemble to order. So, this one is, meron siyang standardized components and pre-produced at ina-assemble kapag may order na pumasok. Pinagkasama nito ang efficiency at customization options. So, yung example dito is yung mga Dell laptops. So, bagay ito sa mga businesses na kailangan mag-offer ng customization habang pinapanatili yung short lead times. Ano ang expected lead time para sa order fulfillment at paano ito tumutugma sa customer expectation? So, we have three types of order fulfillment. Una is yung same-day delivery. So, for example, nito yung mga food delivery platforms o yung mga e-commerce platforms na merong same-day delivery. And then, the next one is yung standard delivery, which is, yung duration niya is between 5 to 7 days para sa mga regular na products or non-urgent goods like yung mga books. And then, the last one is the flexible timelines para sa high customization orders. Or ito din yung tinatawag na merong extended lead times. So, halimbawa nito yung mga made-to-order na produkto tulad na custom furniture or yung mga custom tailored suits. Anong systems ang pwedeng i-implement para matrack ang orders at mapataas ang transparency para sa mga customers? So, you can use the GPS-based tracking for real-time updates, and then the automated notifications or email or SMS alerts. So, you can use this para ma-update ang mga customers tungkol sa progress ng kanilang orders. And lastly, is the customer portals. These are the self-service platforms kung saan pwedeng i-track ng customers yung kanilang orders. So, halimbawa, ang kumpanya tulad na FedEx ay nagbibigay ng detailed tracking features kaya nagkakaroon ng capacity ang customers na i-monitor ang bawat stage ng delivery. Paano masisiguro ng negosyo ang on-time delivery habang nananatiling cost efficient. So you can use the route optimization software para makatipid sa fuel at oras ng delivery. And then you can also use regional warehouses para maikli ang delivery distance at mapabilis ang serbisyo. And you can outsource delivery partners for scalability para mas maraming delivery capacity. For example, ginagamit ng Domino's Pizza ang route optimization para ma-meet ang kanilang 30-minute delivery guarantee. Anong process ang gagamitin para ma-handle ang order delays o disruptions ng epektibo? So you can use the automated alerts para mag-send ng notification sa customers tungkol sa delays. Or you can use alternative delivery methods, for example, paggamit ng drones sa remote areas. Or the buffer inventory sa regional warehouses para ma-address ang demand spikes at maiwasan ang stockouts. So, sa panahon ng holiday peaks, ang mga e-commerce companies tulad ng Shopify ay nagbibigay daan sa mga sellers na ma-notify ang customer tungkol sa potential delays ng proactive. Anong inventory management strategy ang babalanse sa stock availability at holding cost? So, you can use the just-in-time system para sa minimal na holding cost. Gumagamit ito ng strategy na nagde-deliver ng stock kapag kailangan lang. Then, yung safety stock para ma-handle ang demand spikes, naglalagay ng extra inventory bilang buffer. And last one is the consignment inventory kung saan ang suppliers ang nagmamanage ng stock sa iyong location kaya mas mababa ang upfront inventory cost. So, ang balance approach nito ay nakakatulong mabawasan ang gastos habang natutugunan ang customer demand ng maayos. Paano masisiguro ng logistics operations sa on-time delivery? So, you can use an in-house logistics para meron kayong direct control sa delivery process, or you can outsource your logistics for scalability para mas mabilis tulad ng pag-avail ng UPS or FedEx. And then, you can also create a hybrid models kung saan pinagsasama ang flexibility at cost efficiency depende sa needs ng negosyo. So, halimbawa, yung Coca-Cola, gumagamit sila ng third-party logistics para sa distribution, pero inire-retain pa rin nila yung control sa production para masigurado yung quality. Anong technologies ang makakatulong sa inventory tracking at warehouse management? So, you can use the RFID kasi meron itong electromagnetic fields para ma-automatically track at ma-identify ang inventory items. Ang mga tags na nakakabit sa products or pallets ay nagpapadala ng data sa central system kaya laging updated ang location ng items. Then, you can use the warehouse management system para sa inventory optimization dahil ang warehouse management system ay isang software na dinisenyo para i-manage at i-optimize ang warehouse operations. Mula sa pagtanggap ng goods hanggang sa order fulfillment, maaaring itong ma-integrate sa iba pang supply chain system para mapadali ang proseso. And lastly, you can use the robotics para sa automated picking and packing. Ang robotics sa warehouses ay gumagamit ng automated machine para sa repetitive tasks tulad ng pagkuha ng items mula sa shelves, pagpack nito at paghanda para sa shipping. Ano ang contingency plan ninyo kapag merong supply chain disruptions? So, you can use these multiple transport routes kung saan ang pagkakaroon ng iba't ibang transport routes ay nagbibigay daan para para sa pag-redirect ng shipments kung ang primary route ay hindi magagamit dahil sa road closures, strikes, o natural disasters. Then, you can also have a pre-negotiated contracts with backup suppliers. So, ang pagkakaroon ng contracts sa secondary suppliers ay nagbibigay daan para makapag-shift agad ang negosyo sa ibang sources kung hindi makakapag-deliver ang primary supplier dahil sa production issues, political instability, o iba pang problema. And lastly, you can have a buffer stock sa strategic location kasi yung pag-iimbak ng extra inventory sa iba't ibang key locations ay tinitiyak na may sapat na produkto kahit mayroong disruptions sa supply chain. Paano epektibong mamamanage ang reverse logistics o yung mga returns? So, you can have a centralized na return hub kung saan pinagsasama-sama lahat ng return products sa isang location para mas mabilis yung pagproseso at distribution. Or you can have this automated refund system kung saan mas napapabilis ang proseso ng pagbibigay ng refund sa customers kahit kaya mas konti ang waiting time at mas mataas ang satisfaction. Then, you can have this refurbishing return products to reduce waste. So, yung refurbishing ay naglalaman ng pag-repair o pag-repack o pag-restore ng return product para may benta muli bilang discounted or refurbished items.